Hi, everyone. I'm double checking my mic. It is not on mute. Some of you may have caught last week when I was recording last week's episode or 2 weeks ago, depending when this airs, about tanning. I recorded the entire episode with the microphone on mute. I've done that before, but I've never an entire episode. I've realized it a couple minutes in. This was the entire episode. So that really sucked. 226, 220 episodes in. I've been doing this for 4.5 years and still make mistakes. So interpret that, do with that what you will, right? We still go back to doing things. We're careless. We forget. We don't check in. Even we've been doing this a really long time. So I'm in one of those places where I have a few different podcast ideas in my notes, but I'm going to go with something today that I posted a story about, right? Today's Tuesday, May 6th. I'm not sure when this one's going to air yet. I have to decide, but it's going to be within like 1 to 2 weeks. And I was talking about the fact that this morning I was kind of scheduled to go to the gym and do a strength workout. And I really, really did not feel like it for a couple of different reasons. And so I decided to do a weighted vest walk on my treadmill instead. And I do at least one of those a week, sometimes two. So I would have done that workout on another day. I kind of like switched the days of the workouts. And when I posted about it on Instagram, I talked about this idea of structure and flexibility. And when I started, sometimes I just get ideas for things. I think about these concepts a lot, but as I was writing it out, I'm like, oh my God, this needs like a bigger space to kind of live and breathe. So that's kind of why I wanted to sit down and record a podcast about it. Right. So I think we tend to think of structure and flexibility as being opposites, that they are kind of on two ends of on opposite ends of a spectrum. And I get why we think that. Because structure is kind of having boundaries, it's having rules, it's doing certain things at a certain time, it's knowing your place. And flexibility is like being go with the flow and let's change things up and let's see what happens and let's be easygoing. And in some ways, they feel like they don't go together. And I think especially when we think about food and exercise and all the stuff we talk about here, I think we have a hard time seeing these things as being related. And yet, they are. They're not opposites. They're actually companions. And one relies on the other. And I think that really gets to the crux of change and the work that we do here, the work that you are doing, is really figuring out the relationship and kind of the push-pull of structure and flexibility and how one kind of allows and supports the other one. Right. So this workout situation this morning was a great example of this, right? So structures that I do, I think it's like 5 workouts a week. It's like 3 strength, 1 treadmill walk, and 1 HIIT exercise. And I usually end up hitting, I would say most weeks I end up doing 4 out of those 5. Sidebar on that's what consistency is. And so the structures, but I have them scheduled, right? Because I have an app, and so I have them they're scheduled by day every week. And I go in at the beginning of the week and I put them in on the days I'm going to plan to do them. That changes. It changes quite a bit. But that structure is there. I know how many workouts. I know specifically what they are because I pay a trainer, my friend Gina, to program that for me so I don't have to think about that. And I plan out when they are going to be in advance. That is structure. The flexibility part comes in when, like today, I really didn't feel like it, so I did something else. So I gave myself that wiggle room. I didn't say, fuck it, I'm not going to do a workout at all. But I had the flexibility to swap things around. And so I'm able to find that flexibility because I have the structure, right? If I didn't already have those workouts kind of pre-planned in advance, if I didn't know what they were going to be or when they were going to be, then it's just sort of like I wake up on Tuesday morning and I'm like, oh, I've got all this flexibility. I could do whatever I want. And then it feels like very just like you're kind of floating and spiraling through space. And it's like, okay, what happens? And yeah, there's also certainly a personal component to this where some people do a little bit better with more or less of one or the other. But the reality is we all as humans need and require both. There's not a human who needs only structure or only flexibility. We need both. And, acknowledging that and starting to pay attention to where you have too much of one and not enough of the other is a really helpful exercise. And I think can give you a lot of insight into places that you are struggling with and where you consistently struggle to make changes or be consistent or get the outcomes that you want, right? Let's talk about food as another example of this, right? So this is like a great example around like a diet, right? You're like, I want to lose weight. I'm going to follow a meal plan. I'm going to do this program. And the program maps out for you. It gives you a shopping list. It gives you meal plans. It gives you a ton of structure, lots and lots and lots of structure. And that feels really good because you're like, oh my God, they told me what to do. I don't have to think about it. I know what I'm supposed to eat and when I'm supposed to eat it, and I'm good. Well, what happens when you either don't get to the store or they're out of that thing or you have to go out to eat or you're really sick of eating that thing for like the 4th time this month? What do? Well, you need some flexibility. And this is where diet programs fail because you don't know how to figure that out, right? They don't give that to you. They don't suggest those types of things in most cases. And you haven't yet cultivated that skill set. So it's like, yeah, have some structure in place, but build in the flexibility, right? So here's what that would look like kind of from a coaching standpoint of, let's say, you're trying to work on eating more protein, right? You want to work on weight loss. I'll stay within that theme, right? And we know that protein intake is going to play a huge role in that because protein is filling, which therefore helps mitigate snacking and makes it a lot easier for you to eat smaller portions of more calorie dense foods, right? So protein is not only filling, but is also very nutrient dense and not very calorie dense, unless you're eating like super fatty cuts of beef, but we'll set that aside. And so we're going to use that, right? We know we're going to use protein and we're going to say, okay, I'm going to work on getting 100 grams of protein a day. And not everyone goes in with a gram goal, and you do not have to do them. Just, right, this is just an example, right? It's not customized to you. If you want that, we can work together, but giving you examples so you can start to think about how can I apply this to myself, right? So you want to work on weight loss. You know that protein's important. You set some structure in place, 100 grams a day. Now, within that structure, there's flexibility, right? Some people do really well dividing that up evenly over the course of like your 3 meals. Some people maybe are only eating 2 meals a day and a smaller snack. Some people do really well with eating really front loading a lot of protein earlier in the day and then having a little bit later in the day. This is where things get personal and you have to experiment and see what works for you. You have to give yourself flexibility within that structure. If you say, okay, 100 grams of protein a day, that's 35 grams of protein at every single meal, right? Give or take. That might work for you. It might not work for you. And I can guarantee you it probably won't work for you every single day. Even if it does work for you generally, you need to have flexibility to adapt that for the days where that isn't going to happen. You have to know how to work with that. You need flexibility. And so this is like that push-pull, that ebb and flow, whatever like analogy, whatever language you want to use is essential. And so I offer you the opportunity now to think about an area of your life where you are struggling, right? And it could be within like food or exercise, but it could also be in a relationship or with work or a hobby or making time to do certain things. How much structure are you applying to that thing? How much or how little structure? And how much or how little flexibility are you applying? And are you noticing that you are really far on one end, meaning a ton of structure or no structure, a ton of flexibility or no flexibility? And does that start to give you some insight and a little bit of direction into how can I adapt this? How can I adjust the amount of structure? How can I adjust the amount of flexibility so that those two things work together to give myself the support that I need in order to make progress, right? Of course, there are many reasons why we might not be progressing with something. This is a big one, right? Another big one is that you're trying to do too much too soon, which sometimes can also be a byproduct of structure. Like if we put way too much structure in place and it feels overwhelming, that can feel like too much too soon, right? There's not enough flexibility there. And so another important point I want to bring up here that I feel like people might I think tend to think of around flexibility is like, I'm going too easy on myself. I'm letting myself off the hook, right? If I don't have the structure in place, it's too many decisions and I'm just going to say, fuck it. And I'm not going to like stick with it. I hear that. I totally hear that. And I think it's important and helpful to understand that being flexible is not inherently letting yourself off the hook. It's acknowledging in some ways, where am I pushing myself too hard and where am I not pushing myself maybe enough, and being really honest about that. Right? Because flexibility is not just about saying, oh, I'm just going to skip the workout today, or fuck it, I'm not going to have any protein. That's not flexibility. Flexibility is finding a way to live within that structure, but approaching it from a different way, right? Like going back to today's example, Um, I didn't say, fuck it, I'm not gonna do any workout. I did a different workout that kind of fit my mood and my schedule better, right? With a protein, it's like, okay, I'm working on getting 100 grams a day. And normally most days I try to get like 30 to 40 grams at each meal. But today I've got like a breakfast meeting and I can't. So I'm going to like grab a chopstick on the way out the door, or I'm going to bring an extra snack for the middle of the afternoon that's has more protein in it, right? It's not saying I'm not going to do the thing. It's about how can I maybe get this thing done in a slightly different way? I think that's really the key there with flexibility. How can I approach this with just a different perspective? How can I get this thing done? I'm repeating myself, but that's okay. How can I get this same thing done, but in a different way? Maybe it's at a different time, or it's with a different food, or um, I think you kind of get my point. It's trying to look at things with not such a laser focused, narrow minded view. This is the only way to do that thing, because that is almost never true. You have to figure out a way to get that thing done that meets your needs. So again, flexibility is not saying, oh, it's fine if I didn't do that. It's fine. I don't have to do that. It's fine. It's fine. No, that's not what flexibility is. Once in a while, yeah, sure. But flexibility is being able to approach something, or being able to figure out how to live within your structure, having multiple ways to get the thing to accomplish your structure. I don't know if that makes sense, but having more than one way in to get something done, right? You decide what you're going to do. That's kind of your structure. Having different ways to get that thing done is kind of your flexibility. So again, notice what's feeling challenging in your life right now, that you are not making progress. You are not moving forward. You are kind of finding yourself stuck in a spiral where you're circling back around to where you've been. You feel like nothing is changing. Can you look at it through this lens of structure and flexibility and see if there's an opportunity there to maybe make a shift? Maybe there's too much or not enough of one or the other, and see what happens. I'd love to hear about it. If you notice something, reach out. Or if you're not sure and you're trying to work your way through it, send me a note, send me a DM. I am literally always here on the other side of these podcasts, on the other side of these emails. I'm usually like a human, and I respond to everything. I am a business of one. I don't have a staff. I don't have a virtual assistant. It is me. You will always get me. And I love connecting with you and making this a little bit more interactive versus podcasting is in some ways like very one-sided. So thank you so much for listening. And I'll be back, of course, as always, next week.